What is up, BookTube? It is Monty, and today I am back once again with everybody's most anticipated video from me. My worst books that I have read in the year of our Lord, 2022. I know we're currently in 2023. We're going to take a minute to look back. And here's the thing. I sat down and I was really debating on whether I wanted to film this video or not, because I was trying to see if I really held any animosity for some of the most raggedy books that I'd read this year. And so then I thought about making a disappointing list and a worst list, but that would be a disappointments, best, worst, 4 stars you should read. And if I'm doing a disappointment, do I do a surprising? And I've been looking at the numbers. And this daily uploading thing is hurting the channel. And so we're not doing a best. We're not doing a worst and disappointing. So I'm going to do some honorable mentions. I'm going to mention some books that I don't really have the heat for. I'm going to mention them. I'm going to tell you that I didn't really enjoy them, that they didn't work for me. That might work for you. Your mileage may vary, but I'm not going to do a disclaimer in that if your favorite book is on this list, just know I think it's hot trash. I think it's garbage, belongs in the gutter. If we're burning books, I'm bringing these to the bonfire. You may love it. Congratulations, but that's not what we're here for. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the little half-assed job I did at blurring the covers. You saw the title. Those were your 2 disclaimers. If you decided to click in, to see your favorite potentially get dragged. That's not on me, that's on you. So now that that is out of the way, let's get into my honorable mentions. Coming in at what I have at number 13, Crossroads. Jonathan Franzen. What was that? What was that book? I read this in August. Because I read it on primary day. And primary in August, that's what it is in Kansas, and wasn't very good. Was not very good. This is supposed to be the start of a trilogy, a historical fiction trilogy, following this family where the dad is a priest and we're seeing his family, and it just wasn't good. The characters weren't there. The writing wasn't there. For all of the quotes on that book, Jonathan Franzen, he needs to go to writing school. Don't know how to write. Number 12, The Love Hypothesis. Allie Hazelwood. What was that, Allie? BookTube, what was that? I read that also. Did I read that? No, I did not read that one for my patrons. Y'all can see it's an hour-long video. The book, to me, wasn't even bad because he was a grad. I guess he was a professor, a research person. I don't know what the fuck that man was doing. Adam Carlson was doing. And Olive, who was the PhD candidate, she was there trying to get an education. She apparently did some super great science. It was weird. The part of the book for me was that Olive herself was a sexual harasser for most of the book. I don't really care that they were at this little lecture hall and she sat on his lap. Don't really care. I didn't think it was actually that inappropriate the way that it happened. Was it foolish the way that it was written? Sure. Was it unprofessional in the workplace? I don't know, but in the context of the book, it was whatever. But for me, it was that Olive was sexually harassing that man. The book, the meet cute is sexual harassment. And then in the 3rd act of the book, the big bad evil villain of the book does some sexual harassing and it's the end of the world. And I felt that it was very questionable to present our quirky female protagonist as a sexual harasser, and it's cute when she does it, and women can be sexual, but the thing is women can sexually harass people. That's what it really boiled down to me. And it was Allie Hazelwood just didn't want to take it seriously for the sake of the meet cute, but wanted to take it seriously for the evil villain. It was raggedy. Next book, Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Coco Malors can't write her way out of a wet paper bag. Can't do it. No, we're not going to talk about that book. Here are the books that I actually have some heat for. Young Mungo. Douglas Stewart, please come to the table. Come to the table, Douglas Stewart. What was this? I read Shuggie Bain. Shuggie Bain was his first book. He won, I don't think it's actually his first book. He might have had something published before, but he won the Man Booker Prize for Shuggie Bain, which was about this little boy living in tenement housing in Scotland. And Young Mungo was about a tenement house in Scotland and an abusive mother. Well, not an abusive, but an absent mother. Again, it was he was rewriting Shuggie Bain with worse characters, but this time he sent young Mungo off to the wilderness with 2 Scottish pedophiles. For what? For what? I don't know who would want to read this. Who is the fan of this? I don't know who the target audience was. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. I have a whole video about it. I'll leave it linked in the cards. In my dreams, I hold a knife. Ashley Winstead, please come to the table. Professor Dr. Ashley Winstead, please come to the table. What was this? What was this? This was hot garbage. That's what it was. All of y'all running around these streets talking about, ooh, it's dark academia where? These are 30-year-old men, 30-year-old women, running around a college campus, doing what? Being fools. Half of this book is told in flashbacks for what? To make it dark academia? Because these are grown-ass women and men? It was stupid. The book was stupid when they were in the fucking basement of this little dorm house, going around a circle, talking about, oh, I couldn't have been the murderer because I was doing this. It was very uninspired. It was very uninspired. I do think that Ashley Winstead does know how to write her way out of a wet paper bag. But when she wrote her way out of it, was it entertaining? Was it good? Was it solid? No. Like, the sentence is beautiful. The sentence is stunning. I think that she perfected her craft in The Last Housewife, which could be an honorable mention because I thought that book was also hot garbage. But at least she can write. She knew how to write. But the story that she executes with them skills leaves a lot to be desired. Next up on my list, The American Roommate Experiment. Elena Armis, your turn. Why did you write this book? What was I supposed to gain from this book? This is about the friend, the co-worker of the girl in the first book, who, in this book, because I read this for the patrons, so our main character here used to work with whatever her name was from the Spanish Love Deception, but she left her job because, unbeknownst to us, during the events of the Spanish Love Deception, our new heroine was writing a romance novel. And this romance novel blew up on TikTok. And so she quits her job to be a full-time author. And she has a book due at the editor. And she's having some writer's block. She's been trying to write this book forever. Then there's an accident at her apartment. And so she goes to visit her friend's apartment because the couple from the first book are on a honeymoon. So they're not there at that apartment. But also they've been like low-key cohabitating at his apartment. But homegirl is still paying New York City rental prices. It don't make sense. So our new heroine is at the friend's house. And the friend's cousin comes over and she calls the police on him. And it's like, I understand if someone's breaking in, sure, you should call the police. But at the same time, like, you yourself are breaking and entering. Like, you yourself broke in. You don't have permission to be there. She don't know you're there. But the friend that you're staying, like, the apartment that you're in, he's supposed to be there. Like, he's actually allowed into the building. You are not. You just happen to have a key. It was weird. Then they proceed to fuck in the friend's bed. It was weird. There was a lot of shit that happened in this book that was just not very good. And if you told me that she wrote The American Roommate Experiment first, I would believe you, because the Spanish Love Deception, as bad as it was better than The American Roommate Experiment. Great Circle. Maggie Shipstead. Come to the circle. Come to the circle, Maggie. Come join us, Maggie. This book is garbage. It was not very good. Twilight fan fiction with Kristen Stewart, real person fiction too. I do think it takes balls. It takes some gumption. I think this was shortlisted or longlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. Listen, did I enjoy Twilight back in the day? Yes, I ate that series up. I ran through them books. Me, middle school Monty, we was like, this was Twilight, okay? We were here. Them little vampires sparkling. We were here. I was Rosalie Hale? Come on, get into it, Miss Rosalie. But this book, no. Here we're following, it's told in two timelines. We have somebody in the modern day, so our Kristen Stewart, who was an actress, got big off a paranormal movie franchise, got found out for sleeping with the director. There's a Stephanie Meyer insert. The Stephanie Meyer gets mad at the Kristen Stewart because the Kristen Stewart was cheating on her Robert Pattinson. The entire dilemma is there. Everything to make Kristen Stewart is there. But then in the past, we were following this pilot who is not Amelia Earhart, but is like Amelia Earhart. And we get to see her growing up and living. She has her own indigenous love interest for 3 seconds before she runs away with a white man. She has a twin brother. There's a Charlie figure, but here it's the uncle because their parents weren't really around. Their mother just abandoned them on a ship when it was sinking one day, and their father got locked up in prison because he was the captain of the ship, and he left to go take care of his infant babies because their mother was nowhere to be found. And so when he got to America, they're like, yeah, you can't just abandon a sinking ship like that. And they like put him in prison. So the book is just bad. It's bad, but it's on every list everywhere. It's getting nominated for major awards, but it's Twilight fan fiction. And so Maggie Shipstead, she gets points for scamming the girlies, but she didn't scam me. I see right through you. I see right through you. Next up, we have we we got a threefer. We got a threefer because I had the same issue with all of them, and they were romances allegedly. And so the first up on this, we're gonna talk about Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. This is told kind of in two-ish timelines from our two love interests. Their names are so irrelevant, I have forgotten them. But one of them I remember was a black woman, and one of them was not a black woman. I think they were like a Latinx person. And they kind of came from two different sides of the tracks. Like one kind of had a more affluent life. One of them had a more like regular life. And it's them like crossing paths and the things that lead up to them crossing paths and the history that each of them have, and like neither one of them is really like in it for a good, like nothing about this was a good romance. This is another book I read for the patrons, and I was down bad suffering in this book. We had a character, the white girl, she like ran away from her home one day with her gay best friend, and then her gay best friend was in the room getting raped so they could like carpool. It was wild. It was wild. The book never really wanted to address that man got sexually assaulted by the person who was trying to give him a ride. It was all over the place, and it wasn't very good. None of it was very good. These women never got to a point where they were healthy to be in a relationship with one another, and the book doesn't even end with them together, but it's calling itself a romance, and it's like, oh, they're just gonna keep coming together and falling apart. There was some home improvement shit in the middle. It was giving very lit fic. It was not giving romance, and I didn't enjoy it. Then next up in this same genre category, 7 Days in June. Tia Williams, what was this? What was this? Again, not a romance. The book is weird. The book also is another one. We got flashbacks. So our main characters here, they knew each other as teenagers. They went to the same high school, and for like a week as teenagers, as children, they were in a relationship that was not very good. Homegirl was like low-key addicted to drugs. He was an alcoholic. They were, again, children, just on the run, partying it up for this week. They were like really bonding during this week. I mean, they knew each other like around school, but this 1 week is the time that we keep getting flashback to. Jump to the present, and our heroine is I would say semi-successful, because she's affording a very nice apartment. Her child goes to a private school in New York, so like they're not destitute, but her career is like allegedly on its last leg because the events they have her going to seem very low budget, which doesn't make any sense. Like I'm trying to understand like how we're 17 books deep into this series that is being traditionally published. She's living in New York. Her child is going to this expensive school, but she's going to events at like a kitschy diner like place. She's getting invited to do panels, but she doesn't feel like qualified because the other two people on the panel are like more respected people. And I thought that the hero was going to be on the panel, but he just like crashes the panel because he happens to be in town. And the hero's also weird. The hero collects like broken children from across the United States. Like, I don't like their fucking playing cards. He like sends them money. I don't understand. It's like a Big Brother situation, but like he's not really there. I don't fully understand what his deal was, but that was what it was giving. It was like he was collecting these traumatized children like playing cards because when he was a child, he was an alcoholic. And so it's them reconnecting, and they have another week together where they're kind of reminiscing and moving on and healing, and we're seeing them in the past and in the present. It just didn't work. It didn't work. I didn't think that this was really a second chance. I don't think anything they did in the present was really laying the foundation for a strong and healthy relationship between these two people. I thought that the hero was weirdly pushy, especially towards the end of the book when our heroine has a daughter. Not his, because she went off and got married. I also thought that Tia Williams did her ex-husband real dirty, talking about how, like, even though he met her at a hospital and knew she was hospitalized for chronic pain and issues, he still was like, yeah, I don't want a patient on a wife, and, like, he left her to go be with some, like, random healthy person. Do I think people do that? Sure, but I think that the way it was written in this book was weird. Justice for that ex-husband. But anyway, so our heroine has a daughter, and her daughter like has an emergency at the end of the book where she's like texting or calling, or she forgot that her daughter wasn't going to be at school that day and she was going to be home. And so the hero was on his way over, but now she's like, oh yeah, my daughter's going to be here, don't come. And he's like low-key pushing to get in and like to go over there. And it's like, you just met, like, I know you knew her as a kid, but like introducing someone to your daughter seems like a lot. It seems like a very big step, something you are going to do when it's like meaningful. And 7 days, and when the last time y'all saw each other, she was high out of her mind and her mommy had to come get her because she was overdosing and on the verge of death. Like, y'all ain't that close. So Tia Williams, this wasn't good. Literary fiction, sure. Second chance romance, I don't think so. And third, in this little trifecta of romances that aren't romances, you made a fool of death with your beauty. You made a fool of death of yourself, Okweke Emezi, because this was ass. Start to finish, everybody and their mother wanted me to read this book, and that's when I knew it wasn't going to be good. When everybody and their mother wants me to read a book, when everybody and their mother, we have to start asking the questions. You know, we got to ask why. Why does everybody and their mother want me to read a book? And y'all can say that y'all thought I was going to like it, but y'all knew. Y'all knew that book was raggedy. People like to call this book messy. Here, I actually finally remember some characters' names. We're following Faye. And Faye, I'm sorry, but she raggedy. She raggedy. Faye ain't got nothing going for her. So she's an artist living in New York. She's in her late 20s. Her husband died 5 years prior to the start of the novel. And at the start of the novel, she has decided that she's finally ready to come out of retirement. She's going to get out on the dating scene at the urging of her friend Joy. And so she starts, at the beginning of the book, she's hooking up with this guy in a hotel, or in a club, not a hotel. She'll come with this guy in the bar bathroom. And eventually she moves on from that guy to one of that guy's friends, Nasir. And Nasir is like, hey, you should come back with me. I'm about to go. I'm going to go see my family. I'm going to do some business stuff, but you should come with me. You should like come to the islands, get away from the city. It'll be good for you. And Joy is like, yeah, go do it. Kind of like, maybe, I don't know, kind of side eye. I can't remember what Joy said. But eventually, whatever Joy said, Faye decides to go. And so now we got Faye and Nasir on the island. I think it's an island. Maybe it's not an island. Wherever fucking Nasir was from. And they get there, and Faye realizes that she knows Nasir's dad. Like, Nasir's dad is like a Gordon Ramsay, a Bobby Flay, a Giada De Laurentiis, an Emeril Lagasse. Like, he's that level, but black. He's a black man. And so they get back to the Nasir family compound, and she's looking around, and it's beautiful. And Nasir's like, you should come with me. I think it was Nasir. It might have been Nasir's dad. But whatever happens, they go to this art show. And they're going to this art show, and Faye's like, oh, I'm an artist. And she gets commissioned. And so now she's like working on this commission. And Nasir gets called away to go do some business. He has to like jump over to the next island or whatever. But he's like, hey, like you can still stay here. You ain't got to go nowhere. Don't worry about it. Like, I know you're working on this commission for the art lady. So like, just, you know, do your art, whatever. And it's here that Nasir, his daddy, I think Nasir was the son. Maybe Nasir was the dad. Whoever, no matter. Faye starts fucking the daddy. She, not immediately, but her and the dads are they have like 2 conversations, and they decide that they are just soulmates. And by the time that, you know, the actual person she's talking to gets back, they're like shacking up essentially. And he flips his lid, because I think that is just, I mean, part of it is rational and part of it was entirely unrational. Like, I think they had to go to this point, and he had to do the things that he was doing in the third act that were just straight fucking foolishness to like even attempt to make it understandable and believable as to why Faye was like, yeah, never mind, fuck you. And this book isn't good. Like the you know, my boyfriend's dad romance doesn't hit. The book itself doesn't hit. It really wants you to believe that these people are bonding over their grief and their trauma. And it's like, this man is 50 fucking years old. Like, this man is old enough to be her dad. And he is, you know, getting with his child's girlfriend, talk to person, like whatever the case is. It's weird. It doesn't set up to me a foundation for a believable romance, a believable thing that I'm going to root for. And I don't root for it. I think it was poorly executed. It was poorly written. So those are the 3 books that were romances, that are pitching themselves as romances, that I think all were ass. Next up, we have Only on the Weekends. Only on the Weekends is not a good book. This is a novel told in verse by Dean Atta, but his writing, not for me. Anyway, Dean Atta wrote this book about, I think his name is Mac. And so Mac is living in London. His dad is a movie producer, and he has a crush on this boy in his class named, I think his name is like K, or that's his like initial whatever. And so Mac goes out of his way to befriend Kay's cousin, because Kay and his cousin live together. So he befriends this person just so he can get close to her, so he can go over to her house, and so he can talk to Kay. And so eventually he and Kay do start dating. And so they're dating, they're having a good time. Mac at the moment is like he's living his life as a child. But then his dad gets a job in Scotland, and he's like, hey, we got to go to Scotland, and so you got to come with me. And initially Mac is very upset because that means leaving Kay, and he done manipulated his whole life so he can go get over there and be Kay's boyfriend. And so he's like, I don't want to go, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be there. But he has to go. He doesn't have a choice. He's a child. And so he and Kay are trying to make it work long distance. But at the same time, when he gets there, he meets, I think his name was Finn. And Finn is this white trans boy who is going to be in the movie. He's like the movie star. And so because he and Mac are the same age, they like start talking to each other. They start hanging out. And Mac realizes that he really likes this new man. Like, he really likes this new guy. And he starts villainizing the man that he left behind in London. He starts villainizing his friends. And it's like, it's weird because the book wants you to believe that like Kay was ashamed of who he was and he was in the closet and he wasn't doing any of these things, but his family knew. Like, the same rules that applied to Kay's cousin about having boys over applied to him. So like, it was not a secret. He went on public dates with him. He was like, you know, doing the best he could. And so when Matt came to visit him in London, he was being weird. And it was all to justify this emotional cheating, this actual cheating that was happening up in Scotland. And it wasn't very good. It was not very good at all. I don't like it. And I don't think I'll be checking out another Dean Atta book because I read The Black Flamingo and it was fine. It was cute. But the poetry didn't hit. And the poetry, again, is told, this man was just hitting the fucking inner key. That wasn't told in fucking verse. Okay? It just wasn't. And so the poetry wasn't good. The inter-key fucking shenanigans were stupid. And he wrote a character that didn't even make no goddamn sense. And I'm looking at the UK publishers because this is the cover that they gave that book where the black boy ends up with a white man. And this is the cover of the book. This is the cover of the book. So all of it's giving anti-black to me. Next is People We Meet on Vacation. Emily Henry, please come to the floor. Please come to the floor, Emily Henry. This book was garbage. Y'all are telling me this is friends to lovers. This is not friends to lovers. You're telling me it's enemies to lovers. This isn't enemies to lovers. I think that People We Meet on Vacation is the worst place you could possibly start with an Emily Henry. Have I read other Emily Henry, like her little adult romances? No, I have not. Not yet. But this is probably the worst place to start. Here's my issue. Here we are following, I think her name is Poppy. Penelope, it was some fucking P name. We're following our heroine, and she works at this little travel magazine, and she's like, well, I think she gets fired at the beginning of the book. I think that's what happens, and she winds up lying. Anyway, but for a while, she worked at this travel magazine, and she would write these pieces, and every time she had to write a piece, she would take her best friend growing up, and they would go on these little vacations, and they would have a good time. But 2 years before the start of the book, something happened and they stopped talking to each other and they stopped going on these vacations. And I think at the beginning of the book, our main character gets fired and, or something happens where she decides she's gonna go on this vacation. She doesn't have the money for this vacation. She has like $0 in her bank account, but she's gonna go. And so when she reaches out to her friend, she's like, hey, do you want to go? Even though things have allegedly been weird. And the man immediately says yes. There's no hesitation. He doesn't leave her on red for days. He's like, yeah, I'll go. And it's like, the premise of the book is that they don't get along, but he immediately says yes. Like, there's no trying to convince him. Like, there's not a scene in the book where she has to like call him up and go, please, I really need to get out of town or whatever, because he still lives in their hometown. He's like a teacher. And she was, again, like this magazine writer living in the city. But there's no like, oh, let me call him up, convince him. It's like she shoots off the text and she wakes up the next morning, whatever. And he's like, yes. Fast forward, now they're in Palm Springs. So the present day storyline is in Palm Springs. And we do see glimpses of the other like past vacations they went on and the things they got up to. And, you know, there was a year where they didn't go on a vacation because our heroine had gotten a summer cold and she just couldn't be bothered to pull on some Pampers, I guess. And she was like pissing herself in the bed because she nasty in the present too. And so she like comes and he takes care of her. But changing pissy sheets, I can't do it, especially because in the Palm Springs storyline where it's like hot and they're living in this little raggedy Airbnb, and this is the other thing, our main character has $0 in her bank account and she insists on paying for everything. So she is paying for the Airbnb, she's paying for the car rental, she's paying for this and she's paying for that, and it's like she doesn't have any money. And every time I'm looking at her and the hero is offering to pay for something because he has an actual job, like I know he's a teacher, so I know he's not like rolling in cash, but like he's not paying for anything right now, so he could spend $5 and get some dinner, and he's okay spending $5 to get them some dinner. And she's like, no, I got it. And I'm like, no, you don't, bitch. You don't got it. You have $0. You have no credit. You have nothing. But anyway, so we're on this fucking stupid ass vacation with her smelling like hot tilapia because she refuses to shower. She ain't putting on fucking deodorant, not doing nothing to take care of herself. And it's like, the hero is like, hey, do you want to go in the shower after me? And she's like, oh no, like our AC is busted, so I'm just gonna get sweaty in the middle of the night. So I just feel like this man deserved better. Like, this man deserved a love interest that is, and I understand that there are times in your life where you just don't have the energy to take care of yourself and like your little mental, but it wasn't a mental illness thing. You know, she had energy to like, every morning she would be like, oh yeah, we're getting up, we're going to go do this. She was just like, I'm going to sweat in the middle of the night, so I'm not going to take a shower. It's not a very good book, not a very good book at all. And the romance was stupid. Here we are at the top three books here. I feel like people have been waiting. I feel like people are expecting to see this The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to get full in depth, but I'm going to say it was one of the worst books I read this year. I felt that some of the aspects of this book just weren't executed all that well. And at the end of the day, wasn't for me. Next, we have Bloodmarked. I have a whole little podcasting moment, but this book was just too convoluted. It was both doing too much and too little. And I think that because of that, it just didn't know what it was going to do. What really held this book back was if this had literally just been a quest to go get Nick and them finding some stumbling blocks, it could have worked out. But as I talked in my whole review, it's like so many things in this book were so easy that we kept having to backtrack and just like spin in circles and not do anything and not really move forward. And also for all of the people who were wanting to run around the Twitter timelines and the TikTok streets talking about, ooh, this is Bree's story, so we're centering Bree. Bree didn't want to be centered. Bree wasn't doing nothing for her. She was trying to get Nick back. She was flirting with Cell. Some fucking foolish shit happens in this book. Again, every black person she meets is not a time for her to connect. It's how can I use you? How can what you know benefit me so that I can continue on the path that I'm already on? So it's just very weird. It's very weird to me the way that Bree continues to be written and continues to be sidelined from black people, giving her like meaningful connections. Nobody, like if you are a black person in Bree's life and you cannot do anything for her, she wants nothing to do with you. And I think that's very weird. It's very weird, especially for someone, especially when the Twitter streets and the TikTok girlies want me to believe that Bree would care. I'm telling you right now, Bree would not be your friend. Bree would not associate herself with you. She would see you and she would walk in the other direction, because every time she was given an opportunity to make a connection with her ancestors, with the people on the fucking plantation they were trying to reclaim, on the underground fucking railroad, she was not fucking with them. She was not fucking with them. She didn't fuck with Samira. She didn't fuck with the root craft worker, except to tell them, hey, somebody might kill you. So sure, she might be like, hey, your shoelace is untied. But Bree is not coming to the cookout. She's not coming to the kickback. So I just need you to let Bree go, because you love Bree more than Bree loves you. Next up, and lastly, the worst book, hands down, Rodham. Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld. I should have never touched this book, but this book was bad. It is a what if Hillary Clinton did not marry Bill Clinton. Like, what would happen if Hillary just became Hillary Rodham and she lived her life? And so much of this book, I think, is just not very good. And I think it's not very good because I think as much as you would think that would be the interesting question, I think really the more interesting question is, why would you stay with someone like Bill and not, oh, she would be so much better if she had left him? Because what it turns into is just a book that doesn't make any sense, and a book that continues to like make Bill a large part of her life anyway. And she's just the most, I mean, you could argue that Hillary's a pitiful person. I'm not really getting into that, but just what the book does, it was just weird. It also erases the first African-American woman senator from history just to give Hillary something, talking about, oh, well, the pollsters didn't think that she would win. And maybe in, 19 whatever, I think it was like 1990 when this happened, or like 1980. So again, like not that long ago, maybe the pollsters really did think at the time that this person would not win, but it doesn't matter because we live in the present and we know that she did win, and that Carol Moseley Braun just being erased from the history of the Senate is weird, making Kamala Harris the first and only African-American female senator in the world of Rodham is weird. To prop up Hillary for no reason. Like, I feel like you could give Hillary a long list of accomplishments that don't include making her a senator from Illinois. But that's just me. That's just what I got to say. Those are the worst books I read in 2022. I don't recommend any of them. Most of them I don't think anyone was going to read. And the ones that people were going to read, you already read. So that's what I got to say. I'll be back again tomorrow with a happier video where I talk about my best books of the year. But until then, goodbye for now, and I'll see you soon.